What's up, Internet? Since Media here. Yeah, so today's a good day. In the last couple of days, last week or so, I've just launched Goldenpond 0.5.0, which is my library for making chord progressions and rhythmical patterns based on that, based on those chords. And yeah, I'm going to show you the new features. We've got some really good new stuff in it. Particularly, we've now got modal harmony, which opens up an entirely new, more sort of sophisticated world, a world of more sophisticated chords. So if you want to learn how to make your pro-level chords or your sophisticated chord progressions, I don't want to say without learning music theory. This is about me as a programmer learning music theory, but I'm just not learning music theory. I'm just not learning music theory by having to learn to play, say, a piano or another instrument. I'm learning it through coding, effectively live coding. This is made for people who are writing music through code, either in a sort of Algorave type live performance environment, or just because it's a convenient way to write music. So Goldenpond, let's go back to the beginning here. This is my new site, Gilbert Lister Research. This is like I'm calling my mini laboratory. Gilbert Lister Research is my research lab into melody, technology and melody tech, I might call it that. So I made a new site for it. I'll put a link in the description. This is now going to be like the hub for all of my stuff. It might even become like this might even become the official Gilbert Lister Research YouTube channel, depending on how much I want to take this, how far I want to take this thing. If you come here, you can find out about the different projects I'm working on. Goldenpond is what we're talking about today. We've got some examples of it. There's a page, and that page has got a tutorial. That's got all the details of it. It's got music to listen to, and one of the interesting things, okay, we've got it in the browser. We can now, it's all free software, anybody who wants to try this out, you can come to the browser and start playing around, okay? Let me just simplify that for a second, take these off. So at its very simplest, Goldenpond just lets you So at its very simplest, Goldenpond just lets you make chord progressions, okay? Now chord progression, just remember this briefly. We've got a scale here like C. Okay, now that's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, 7 notes really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it's the octave, meaning you've come back to C again. Okay, this should be familiar, very quick revision. So we can also think of this as the first degree, second degree, third degree, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the scale. And we can talk about building the chords on those degrees. Okay, that one, I'm playing on the computer keyboard here, so that wraps around. But anyway, so that's the chord on the first degree of the scale, the 2, the third degree, 4, 5. Now, we just call these the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, etc. Okay, that's where these numbers come from. If I do 1 here, and I'm in C major, it says major here, that's the mode called major. C is the key or the root, and I'm just going to play a pattern which is a now what this means is play the chord on this pattern is 2 steps long, and that pattern lasts for the duration of an entire chord here. We've only got 1 chord here, and we're just going to play that chord, right? You press that once, it downloads the instrument. You've got to do it. Okay, there's our C major chord, same as this. You can hear they kind of sound similar. I mean, different instruments obviously in the browser. Okay, now we can make a longer chord progression. We can do a 4, 5, 1 chord progression here. Okay, all that's doing is the same as this. Yeah, those numbers are the degrees of the scale, And the pattern we've made is just a simple one here. Now, we can add some more things to this pattern. We could say, make 2 chords. Or instead of playing a whole chord on that second note, we could just play the first note of the chord. Now that means if this chord is here, the first note is this one. If this chord was here, the first note would be this one. The second note of the chord would be this one. Third note of the chord would be this one. Okay, so let's play that. It's going a bit slow now. Well, it's all right. No, it's all right. I'll stick to that. We could make a 4-chord scale. A 4-step. I apologise. 4-step pattern here, right? So it's a 4-step pattern already. We're going to make an 8-step pattern. Let's now put the 2 here and the 3 there. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps, and we're playing basically a kind of arpeggio. Another way of doing that, if we just wanted a pure, let's take this back again, play that chord once, let's come down here, let's do another thing here, another pattern with the harp, and let's just play the arpeggio. We'll do a 1, we'll just do this. This is a shorthand for meaning go up from where you were before. Okay, so we're going up, this by default will start on the 1, then it will be the 2, 3, 4, right? So we're just making an arpeggio simply here. Except I've got to say how long that takes. That last thing here is known as the density. That's how many times this whole pattern repeats within the duration of one of these chords. Now, if you notice this last one, they're going up each time, but this last one wraps around because there's only 3 notes in each of these chords, right? The chords are just these triads. Often people make a slightly more sophisticated chord by not only playing those first 3 notes, but adding the 7th degree of the scale on top of it. Okay? So that becomes what's called a 7th chord. And you can hear it's got that slightly richer, jazzier sort of quality about it. Now we can do that in Goldenpond just by putting the number 7 in front of these. Now, this is absolutely not standard musical notation, but it is standard music theory. So, just to separate the idea of the notation from the theory for a second, the theory, you know, I'm a programmer. I'm trying to get my head around and learn music theory. I'm not coming to you as a person who's an expert at this. I'm learning this. This is like, I'm telling you what I'm discovering about music theory as I go on with this. But I have a slightly weird take on it, which is that I'm not so interested in learning to play it on a keyboard. I'm not so interested in even learning the official names for things. What I'm interested in is a notation that will let me express this stuff fairly concisely and elegantly. You know, I'm coming at it from a programming background, so I want a programming language for music, effectively. So when I show you something like putting sevenths by putting a 7 before the 1, you know, the number here, I'm not telling you how everyone else does it. I'm telling you how Goldenpond works and how, if you use Goldenpond, you know, how you can do it by using Goldenpond. Okay? So let's put our chord progression in with sevenths now. And we still got this patterns. Actually, we're only doing... This pattern only has 7 steps in it. As you can see, we could have sort of weird, unequal things if we like. But let's just make it 8 for a second. Now, we could do a slightly different rhythm if we liked. We could do something like this. Okay, yeah, we got quite a lot of flexibility here. We can also change the key. We can just pull the entire thing down to an A or a G or an F. I can put the whole thing into minor. This is the natural minor. Okay, now I could make this as long as I like. So one of the problems I have with existing a lot of these other chord tools is they tend to be rather restricted in the, they kind of give you 4 or 8 slots or whatever. Now, obviously, we can write these as long as we like, and we could start mixing it up a bit. We can start having one that's not a 7th if we like. Let's have a 4 over here before we come back to the 1. Or we could decide actually we preferred the 4 over here and the 6 over here. Now, we can also decide that we want to change key in the middle of these. So we're starting on an F here. I'm playing this minor. We'll go back to F major for a second. We could decide that we want to shift the whole thing up. We were playing in, say, if we were playing in C, we'd be playing all these white notes, but suddenly we want to shift up to playing some black notes by sort of playing in a different key up here. Let's shift up a semitone, right? At this point. Right, you hear that? You hear we went into a different world at this point. Hopefully, anyone who's seen Goldenpond before, you know about that stuff. We started in a major. Instead of going into changing key by going up here, we could also just go into the minor. Now, this is new notation compared to the previous version of Goldenpond. We use this exclamation mark not simply to swap, but now we've got these 4 different scales available to major, minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor. I'm not going to explain all those. They're variations of a minor scale. I'm not going to explain why and exactly what they are, but you can now just choose any of them. You can also choose them by just putting either major, the natural minor, the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor, like that. It's just switch from the major to the... I hope this makes sense. I'm just going through this quickly. Let's just... it's just not very exciting, is it? I want something a bit more exciting. Let's go back to this. Let's have the 6th chord here and go down to the 2 chord there. How does that sound? Okay, now this is sometimes called the 2-5-1. The 2-5-1 always sort of sounds good. That's the basis of a lot of stuff in popular music. By popular music, I'm talking about great American songbook and, this whole 20th century tradition of popular music. Obviously, like real pop music today has got rather simplified in terms of its chord progressions, although maybe not this simple in some ways. That, I think, partly because obviously people have got different interests, and partly I think because a lot of us are making our music on the computer, and the computer makes it really easy to do certain things, but I don't feel that the computer has actually enabled us to play around with chord progressions as much as I would like, or as we could. So part of what Goldenpond is for is to make it easy in our DAWs, or in for us to learn about chord progressions. How do they sound? How does it sound when you try this sort of chord followed by that sort of chord? I think the software could be helping us a lot more than it actually is. So I'm a programmer. I did something about it. That's what this is for. So one thing we can do here. Let's go back to this again. Let's make this a 1. I just did a jazz composition class in the last couple of months, and one of the things we were doing, so this is the 251 progression. And one thing they had us experimenting with was just kind of taking the 2/5 part of that and shifting it up or down a key, a semitone or two, just as here, because it's so powerful, this 251 sound. Even when you dislocate it and you sort of push it out of the key, you know, when it should just be completely wrong, it creates so much resonance in people's memories and how we're used to hearing music that it can still sound okay. It can still be the basis of something. And I've been writing music that just kind of plays with this principle. Okay, so that is, let's put a bass on here. Let's just put a bass. I'm going to play that bass 4 times, or twice during the pattern. I can put a 3 here to explicitly go up to the 3rd note in the chord, which is of course the 5th in fact. We could even take the piano off for now, just... I can hear that harp distorting a bit for some reason. I don't have volume control over here. We can play this flute. Now another thing I can do, I could just play this. I'm just playing the top note here. Or I can play the top note followed by going down 1. Or down and then up. Or instead of the top note, I can play a random note. I can play a random note, go down 1, rest. Sorry, random note, go up 1, rest, go down 1. That's what I meant. Maybe this will be easy if we just play random notes for a second. Okay, you start to see. Now we could play a random note. We can always then go up from the random note, unless of course it's the random note turned out to be the top note, in which case we'd wrap around and then we play a random note again. We can also use our Euclidean rhythms. Now, in the old version of Goldenpond, there was more an emphasis on Euclidean rhythms, and we've still got them. So Euclidean rhythm is when we divide it, is another way of just dividing it into steps and then playing. You spread the number of hits within the number of steps out more or less evenly according to this algorithm. So if I do this 3/8, we get what's sometimes called the Tresillo rhythm, which is the kind of da 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 da. Okay, like if you're spreading 3 notes over 8 notes, then what you're going to get is, and trying to do that as evenly as possible, you can't divide 3 into 8 evenly, so you're going to have to kind of come up with a slightly off-kilter rhythm. Now, the Euclidean algorithm should give us this. I'm just playing it once, so the 8 steps go over the duration of a whole chord. It may be we need to offset it, but let's just hear. Oh, and in this case I've got to specify what we're playing, so let's just play the top note to begin with. Okay, we'll play that double speed twice for each chord. Now it starts to hear da 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 da. Right, okay. Now we can make any sort of thing there. We could do a 5 in 8. We can go back to being random and just play it slightly, half that speed. Okay, so I hope this is starting to make sense, how we can start making these complex things. So we can also download the MIDI for this, and this is obviously useful when you want to get this into a DAW, or in this case I got it in MuseScore here. Now it all starts to look rather proper once you put real in fact, the ability, let's say, of MuseScore to load these things in sensibly. I mean, it does a good job. It does a good job, but sometimes you get this rather weird stuff where no human would ever write it like this, and it kind of jumps around from, the bass clef to the. But now you can see that this is not at all, this is sophisticated stuff. There is no, at least, I'm just going into the minor at that point, and we're just making a bigger score here. Here are we? Here we go. Okay, so that is Goldenpond in the browser. The link will be in the description. Go play with it. Bug reports are very welcome at this point, because it's work in progress. I'm figuring out this music theory stuff myself still. I'm trying to learn it. I'm trying to put it into the things. If you think it's playing the wrong notes, tell me. What I definitely know is wrong, I think it's trying to give you the chord names. I'm pretty sure that some of these chord names for the more complex chords are wrong. So I definitely welcome some feedback on the naming of the chords. Although one of the things I discovered from kind of doing a few classes in this jazz composition class is that naming of chords is itself a little bit ambiguous. There's more than one way to name a chord. So this is Goldenpond in the browser. You can play it there. The next place you can get Goldenpond, of course, is still in FL Studio. So it's a piano roll script, and okay, here we are. This might sound a bit. Let's come back to that browser for a second. Let's grab that chord progression we were working on. Stop. No. Let's put that chord progression in here, and let's just play the chords for a second. Okay, so a couple of things to explain about this. in this particular version, this is the simplified version of Goldenpond. Let's take that down. What was our key? We were in the key of F, weren't we? Everything here is being played on the same, whether it's chords or an up or a down arpeggio, is on the same rhythm. Let's go back to our tresillo for a moment, and we're going to put our density down to 2. And now, how's that sound? Or maybe we'll do the 5 in 8. If I take this note proportion down, that's the gate length basically, that's how long the notes are going to be played for. Instead of the chords, I could be playing the bass notes, or I could be playing that arpeggio. Let's take the density back to 2. I could be taking the top note, or I could take the random note. That's not a great instrument. Let's... So that's Goldenpond as you have probably seen it before, if you've seen it at all. So, you know, obviously now we're in FL Studio, I can just put that up there. I've got my chord progression. Now I can just do what, and this is what I do composing all the time, right? I'm now going to do that, and I'm now going to just pull up something, and let's pull up. Ooh, it's a bit, yeah. Pull up some sort of drums like this. Give it a bit of swing. That's... Okay, now we got more of a... I might pull this down, it's all a bit too... So you can hear, right? I mean, okay, maybe we're just jumping around too much all over the place now. So let's just... I'm going to take out some of these shifts in key. We'll use that a little bit more sparingly. It sounds good when you go up 3 though, and it doesn't sound bad when you come back down 3 again. So let's put this... I'm going to do a bit of composing here. I may cut the video, I may not, because in a sense, just take these out. Let's just play the chords on a much simpler rhythm. And now let's just add a new instrument in. Just add flex in. These guitars are quite good. Let's get on here. Let's add in some other instrument. Let's add in a... Okay, yeah, why not? I'm shameless about this. I tell you what, I like everything. One of my favourite plugins of all time is this fake Mellotron. Come on, you've got to play, right? I can't believe, having said that, it's now just not going to work on me. Oh yeah, here we go. And what we want is just the standard 60 sounding flute. But we're going to put a ton of reverb on that, or maybe some other echo, because why not? And then put some yeah. Okay, so why are we doing all that? Well, yeah, it's a good sound, right? So let's now just put it up an octave. It's gone ducky, hasn't it? No, forget that. So yeah, I mean, that is Goldenpond in action, you know, as sort of briefly as possible. And as you can see, you know, you can very quickly build up something quite interesting with it. I can, what am I doing there? Don't do that. I just want to randomize the volumes a bit. Chords just seem to be a bit quiet now. Obviously, it helps that the instruments I had that nice twing thing, but you know what I mean. You know, it's not. You can very quickly build up some complex chord progressions, and there's a lot more to the Goldenpond language than that. So, how are we doing in terms of what have we talked about? What have we not talked about? Okay, we're going to talk about the next thing in Goldenpond, which is. Just throw it all away. Let's go back in here. Let's take our pianos again. Let's put in Rhodes. Maybe this will work for us. We have a second version of Goldenpond script now. I'd say they're all available on this site. So when you get them on the site, if you're in this Goldenpond page here, you've got the simple script, that's the one I just showed you, and we've got the live coding script. The live coding script is designed for people who want to have more control over the different rhythmic parts. So it's more like the rhythms that you program in the web browser version. We get multiple parts, and it's kind of more like you're doing live coding, you're typing in more words or more characters on a keyboard. Both of these can just be downloaded directly from this website, and if you click here, you've got the instructions on the ImageLine site for how you install them. Let's look at the live coding one now. Let's hope this sound is all right. Let's go into our editor here, and we're going to come to our right. Let's put our same chord progression in, and we had it down at 53, didn't we? Which I believe was oh well, we've lost it now. Threw it away. I think it was down at 53. Was F. If it wasn't, I apologise, but we're going to play this at F. And now I'm going to take out a bunch of these other things for the moment. These slots are basically the same now as as we had down here. So I'm playing on channel 1, I'm playing... It's a bit hard to see, unfortunately, because the text is so small in this. I may try and zoom in the video editing, but it's the same, like it's just playing that pattern. In fact, it's a 4-step pattern. We're playing the chord on the 1 and the 4 of that. But you can now see I've got a volume control, so I can change the volume of those things. And I've also got an octave change here. I can take it all up or down an octave. Now let's just put now an arpeggio, simple arpeggio. Let's put that twice the... I'm going to go up 2, down 1, up 1 again. Or I might just start with a random one. Off. Start random, go have a rest, go down, have another rest, 2 more rests, and then up at the end. There's another thing I could do here, actually, equal. That just makes the same note again as the previous one. So random note, down from that, keep it the same, up, and then up again. Let's add yet another part here. Let's add just the bass. Oh, we're in minor at the moment. Let's go back to major so it sounds the same as previously. Okay, now one thing you'll notice here is that actually these are all different channel colours. Like if I click here and I go in and do a select by colour, you'll see it just selects that bass line because that bass line came out on different colour. FL Studio doesn't have MIDI channels, it just has these colours which are more or less the same as MIDI channels. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like, what it does mean though is that if we can create an instrument. I'm going to use an instrument that I created in Patcher where I call my live coding instrument. Now what this has inside it, it takes the stuff coming in from FL Studio, it goes through this color mapper, and the color mapper effectively takes each color or equivalent of MIDI channel and routes it to a separate output. So what that means is that we can now route inside Patcher each of these to a different instrument plugin. Right? This is where Patcher really comes into its own in FL Studio. So you'll see I've got an FL keys here. I've got the Flex set up playing a guitar there. I've got the DX10 playing a bassline sort of sound. I've got Citrus playing. I wish they actually showed you what these sounds were, but they don't. I've got another Flex here playing clarinets, and I've got another Flex here playing cellos. Right, now if I come back into this pattern here, right, and I can now adjust each of these instruments. This is that guitar was playing this And here's that. And I could just change the right. This is why I'm saying it's like a live. It's almost like I'm doing performances with this. I mean, I was at an EMOM, like an electronic music open mic last week, more or less improvising with this setup, with this thing here. Let's put a couple of random notes here. This is the Citrus synth. Do that 4. Oh. I'm going here. I'm going to use the Euclidean thing. Arpeggio's going up. Do that twice. These are our clarinets. I like these clarinets doing their arpeggios. And again, we can just put this on here and we can put a beat underneath it. Okay, too much swing. Want to take a couple of want to take the tracks out for a second. Let's put some violins in. Okay, so that is Goldenpond in the new version in FL Studio. Right, so how are we doing for time? I wonder how long this this video has been recording. It better have been recording. Doesn't tell me, does it?